She called me a loser every single day. She said I didn't belong here, that people like me couldn't afford a place like this. What she didn't know was that every word she spoke, every insult she threw, was inside my own building. Because I wasn't just her neighbor, I was her landlord. And when she finally found out, it was already too late. The Karen next door. Soft suburban music fades in, sound of birds, sprinklers, and distant cars. Camera pans over a quiet, sunny neighborhood. Narrator, calm voice. In every neighborhood, there's that one house, the one where everything looks perfect from the outside. But behind its white fences and manicured lawns, something darker usually hides. Daniel Green had always dreamed of living in a quiet community. After years of saving from his small tech job downtown, he finally rented a cozy single-story home in a beautiful suburban neighborhood called Maple Creek Estates. It wasn't fancy, but it was peaceful. The kind of place where mailboxes lined the streets in neat rows and people waved when they walked their dogs. But on the second day after moving in, Daniel learned peace was an illusion. It was early morning when Daniel first met her. He was in the front yard unpacking boxes from his small U-Haul truck. The air smelled of cut grass. Birds chirped above. He was humming a tune when a sharp voice sliced through the calm. "Excuse me, are you the new tenant?" Daniel looked up. Standing across the driveway was a woman in her late 40s, wearing a wide-brimmed sun hat, oversized sunglasses, and a floral shirt that screamed authority. Her expression was tight, judgmental, like she'd been waiting for this moment. Yeah, Daniel said politely. "Just moved in yesterday." "I see. Well, I'm Karen Roberts, head of the HOA. She emphasized the title like it was a royal crown. "We like to maintain certain standards here in Maple Creek." Daniel smiled faintly, wiping sweat from his forehead. "Of course. I'll make sure everything's neat." "Good," Karen said, eyes narrowing at the boxes. "Because the last tenant left their trash cans out past pickup day. I hope you're more responsible." She lingered for a moment, her gaze crawling over his old Toyota parked by the curb. "That car," she said slowly, "is it staying?" Yes, it's my daily ride." She muttered. "We usually encourage residents to keep vehicles newer than 10 years old. It's about property value." Daniel blinked, confused. "I didn't know there was a rule like that." "Well," she said curtly, "there's not officially, but most people here understand." Then, with a forced smile, she turned. "Welcome to Maple Creek, Mr. Green. Let's keep things pleasant, shall we?" And with that, she walked away, heels clicking sharply on the driveway like punctuation marks to her warning. Daniel stood there silently, staring after her, then whispered under his breath, "Nice to meet you too." Over the next week, Daniel tried his best to fit in. He trimmed the hedges, painted the mailbox, even waved at neighbors. Some waved back. Most didn't. But one thing was constant: Karen's eyes. She was always there, from her porch, from behind her curtains, or walking her little white dog named Muffin. Whenever Daniel mowed the lawn, she'd appear with some reason to inspect something nearby. Once she called out, "Daniel, your trash bins are too close to the curb. HOA recommends 6 inches from the sidewalk line." Another time, "You really should water your lawn more. Dry grass makes the whole street look uninviting." At first, Daniel laughed it off. But soon it became intrusive, suffocating even. He started feeling like a stranger in his own home. 2 weeks later, Daniel found a white envelope taped to his door. The Maple Creek HOA logo was stamped neatly on top. He opened it. "Notice of violation. Your driveway has oil stains and must be cleaned within 48 hours. Failure to comply will result in a fine of $500. He sighed deeply. It wasn't even his fault. The stains were old from the previous tenant. Still, he grabbed cleaning supplies that afternoon and got to work. The sun blazed, sweat soaked his shirt, but he kept scrubbing. Then, a familiar voice. "Oh, good, you're taking care of it." Karen stood at the sidewalk, sipping from a Starbucks cup. "I was just about to send another notice," she said cheerfully. "You know, you really should have checked before renting. Some landlords don't care what kind of people move in." Daniel froze. What kind of people? He wanted to say something, anything, but he just bit his tongue. He smiled faintly. Thanks for the advice, Karen. You're welcome, she said sweetly, walking away. We just want our community to stay safe. That weekend, Daniel had friends over, 2 co-workers helping him assemble furniture. They laughed, grilled burgers, and played music softly on a Bluetooth speaker. At exactly 8:47 p.m., Karen appeared again. This time, phone in hand, camera recording. Noise complaint! It's almost 9 o'clock. HOA rules state quiet hours start at 8:30. Daniel, standing on his porch, tried to reason. Karen, it's not even loud. We'll keep it down. Don't talk back to me, she snapped. I'm documenting this for HOA evidence. Maybe your landlord will care more than you do. One of Daniel's friends muttered. Is she serious right now? Karen zoomed the camera closer to Daniel's face. Say something again, she taunted. I want this on record. He exhaled slowly and said, Enjoy your evening? Karen. Then he went inside and shut the door. The next morning, the video was online, on a local community page titled, Disrespectful Tenant Harasses HOA President. The comments were cruel. Typical renter. These people ruin nice neighborhoods. He doesn't belong there. Daniel sat silently on his couch, reading each word like a punch to the gut. He didn't reply. He didn't defend himself. He just stared out the window at Karen's perfect lawn and whispered, One day, this'll turn around. A week later, a storm rolled in. Heavy rain, thunder, wind howling through Maple Creek. Karen's dog barked endlessly that night, and Daniel heard shouting outside. He looked through his window, Karen struggling with her trash cans blowing down the street. He rushed out to help. Karen, let me— No, she snapped. I don't need your help. Lightning flashed behind her and she slipped, nearly falling. Daniel caught her arm, steadying her. For a second, she looked shocked, almost human, before snatching her arm back. I'm fine, she muttered, storming back into her house. Daniel stood in the rain, drenched, shaking his head. Some people, he whispered, don't even know when someone's trying to help. Days turned into weeks. Karen's complaints didn't stop. Mailbox too old, fence too tall. Garden gnomes not community approved. Daniel stopped responding altogether. He worked long hours, ignored her, and started saving money. Every month, part of his paycheck went quietly into a new account. He had an idea, one Karen would never see coming. The neighborhood, once suffocating, began to feel like training. He was learning patience, learning control, learning how to smile while people tried to break him. One morning, Daniel was leaving for work when Karen called out again. Oh, Daniel, by the way, your grass is getting too long. He turned, smiling politely. Thanks, Karen, I'll handle it. Good, she said. You know, renters never last long here. It's better when homeowners take care of things properly. He chuckled softly. Yeah, he said under his breath. Homeowners definitely take better care. Karen didn't hear him, but one day she would. By late summer, the neighborhood changed. Property prices dropped slightly. A few homeowners decided to sell. And one of those homes was Karen's rental. She didn't own it. She was renting it from a retired couple who lived out of state. They were tired of the HOA drama and listed the property quietly through a private agency. Daniel saw the online listing by accident. He clicked it and smiled. Maple Creek Estate, 2-bedroom corner lot, asking price $310,000. He whispered to himself, guess I'm about to be the homeowner you wanted. And that's where the story truly begins. The humiliation, soft piano begins, mixed with light rain. Camera slowly pans over Maple Creek Estate. The morning looks peaceful, but something feels off. Narrator, calm, serious tone. They say humiliation is the spark that lights the fire of change. But when it's lit by cruelty, it burns differently. It was 6:30 in the morning when Daniel found another white envelope taped to his front door. The Maple Creek HOA logo shone at the top, same as always. But this time, it wasn't about the lawn or driveway. It was about him. He opened it slowly. Notice of community complaint. Several residents have expressed concerns regarding your uncooperative behavior and aggressive tone during HOA communications. You are required to attend a meeting this Saturday at 10 a.m. to discuss your conduct and ensure compliance with community expectations. Signed, Karen Roberts, President. Maple Creek Ho Daniel sighed, rubbing his eyes. Aggressive tone? The only thing he'd done aggressively was breathe. Still, he didn't want trouble. He decided to attend the meeting, Saturday morning. Karen's house. Her living room was filled with folding chairs, coffee, cookies, and the strong scent of artificial lavender. About 10 people sat around, neighbors Daniel barely knew. Karen stood near a whiteboard, clipboard in hand, wearing her signature smug smile. "All right, everyone, let's get started," she chirped. "As you all know, we've had some issues with one of our residents." Her eyes darted to Daniel. Daniel kept quiet, hands folded. Karen continued, pretending to be professional. "This community thrives on respect, but when a tenant refuses to follow basic guidelines, it affects everyone." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "Karen, if this is about the trash bins or driveway, I already fixed—" "No, Daniel," she interrupted sharply. "It's about attitude." Laughter rippled through the room, the kind that isn't loud but cruel enough to sting. "We've received complaints," Karen continued, "that you're often defensive and uncooperative. And as HOA president, it's my duty to address it publicly." Daniel clenched his fists quietly beneath the table. "Do you have any evidence of these complaints?" he asked calmly. "Evidence?" Karen smirked. "Everyone here knows what I'm talking about." "Don't we?" Several heads nodded, not because they cared, but because no one dared oppose her. Then she pulled out her phone. "Actually, I have a video." She projected the same video she'd uploaded weeks ago, the one where she accused him of harassing her during the barbecue night. Only this time she'd trimmed it to make it worse. The clip showed Daniel walking toward her and saying, "Karen, it's not even loud." Then she cut it right before she yelled at him. "See?" she said, pausing the frame. Aggressive body language. Hostile tone. This isn't how neighbors should behave. The room was silent. Daniel spoke softly. "Karen, you edited that video. You know what really happened." "Oh, please," she scoffed. "You're lucky I didn't call the police." "If you don't like how we do things here, maybe Maple Creek isn't the right community for you." That line, that single sentence, hit him harder than anything else. He looked around. Not one person defended him. Not one voice said, "That's unfair." He smiled faintly, stood up and said quietly, "You're right, Karen. Maybe it isn't." Then he left, calm, silent, but burning inside. That night, Daniel sat on his porch as rain began to fall. The street lights reflected in puddles. The neighborhood looked beautiful, but it felt poisoned. He thought about moving out. But then, a memory came back. His late father once told him, "Son, sometimes silence is the best weapon. Let them underestimate you. That's when you win." Daniel took a slow breath. "All right, Dad," he whispered. "I'll stay." And just like that, a decision formed. 2 days later, a new post appeared on the Maple Creek Community Facebook page. Posted by none other than Karen Roberts. "Friendly reminder to all residents, please respect your neighbors and maintain standards." Some tenants are still struggling to fit in. It wasn't a direct tag, but everyone knew who she meant. Underneath, comments poured in. "I saw that video. Shocking behavior. We don't need renters here." Maybe the HOA should raise standards. Daniel read them all quietly. He didn't type a word. He just bookmarked the page, saving every comment, every name, every date. Daniel went to work early the next day. He was a systems analyst at a small tech firm, quiet, intelligent, and methodical. His boss noticed he seemed distracted. "Everything okay, Daniel?" "Yeah," he replied, forcing a smile. "Just dealing with a neighbor." "Ah," the boss chuckled. "The classic suburban nightmare." Daniel smiled faintly. Something like that. By lunch break, he opened his personal laptop and started researching, not about the HOA, but about property investment. He wanted to understand how people like Karen got their power, and how he could take it back, legally, silently. completely. While Daniel was learning, Karen was falling, but she didn't know it yet. Her HOA leadership started getting complaints from others too, about her arrogance, her micromanagement, her queen bee attitude. One neighbor, an elderly woman named Mrs. Jenkins, had enough. She told the HOA board, "Karen fined me $200 for planting sunflowers. Since when are flowers illegal?" Another resident, Tom Rayner, added, "She threatened to sue me over my Christmas lights." The board started questioning Karen's leadership. But Karen brushed it off, confident, untouchable, obsessed with control. "They're just jealous I keep the community clean," she told her friend over coffee. "That tenant across the street? He's the real problem. Always watching, always quiet, creepy." Her friend nodded half-heartedly. "Maybe you should just leave him alone," Karen laughed. "Leave him alone, please. I'll make sure he's gone before Christmas." That night, Daniel received an email from his landlord. "Dear Daniel, we're planning to sell the property next quarter. You have the option to renew your lease or consider purchasing it." Daniel froze. The property he was renting, the one across from Karen's house, was for sale. He smiled. "Funny," he murmured. "That's sooner than I planned." He spent the next few days calculating everything. His savings, his credit score, his loan eligibility. He was close. Not enough to buy his house yet, but close enough to know he could buy something soon. Maybe even Karen's. A week later, Karen was on a call with her own landlord, the elderly couple who owned her house. They wanted to sell too. "Karen," said Mrs. Baxter over the phone, "we're retiring in Florida. We'll be listing the house for sale next month." "You're selling?" Karen gasped. "You can't! I've been living here for 7 years. We understand, dear, but it's time. You can renew your lease if the new buyer allows it." Karen's voice turned sharp. "Well, make sure you find the right kind of buyer. We don't want troublemakers moving in," Mrs. Baxter chuckled softly. "Oh, don't worry. I'm sure someone from the neighborhood will take interest." They hung up. Karen never realized the irony of those words. Scene 9. The breaking point. It was late evening when it happened. Daniel was sitting quietly in his backyard when Karen stormed across the lawn, furious. "Did you touch my mailbox?" She yelled. "What?" "Someone dented it, and you're the only one with a car parked that close." "Karen, I haven't even been home today." "Don't lie." "I'll check my cameras. I'll make sure the HOA fines you for this." Daniel just looked at her, calm and unshaken. "Go ahead," he said softly. "Do what you have to do." "Oh, I will," she snapped. "You'll regret ever moving here." She turned and stormed off, muttering under her breath. Daniel watched her go, his face unreadable. Then he whispered quietly, "I already did, but soon you will too." Over the next few days, Karen didn't speak to Daniel, but he could tell she was plotting something. HOA letters started piling up again. Small petty notices about leaves on the sidewalk and mailbox tilt, but Daniel didn't care anymore. He had something bigger in mind. He'd been talking to a real estate agent, discreetly, quietly, efficiently. The agent had one sentence that changed everything. "Actually, there's a property right across from your address that's about to be listed." "Same street. You interested?" Daniel smiled slowly. "You have no idea." Slow fade out. Music shifts darker. Narrator, she wanted power. He wanted peace. But now, the balance was shifting. The dinner invitation. Opening scene. The calm before the storm. The next few days passed in strange silence. Karen wasn't shouting anymore. No HOA complaints, no petty notices, no banging on doors. Just silence. Alex noticed it. The calm felt unnatural, like a storm gathering strength behind quiet clouds. Every morning, he'd see her curtains twitch slightly when he stepped outside. She was watching him, not yelling this time, just observing. It was unsettling. That Friday evening, Alex came, home from his gym session, sweat on his neck, headphones in, when he noticed something pinned to his door. A note, written in fancy cursive handwriting. "Dinner at my place tomorrow, 7 p.m. Let's start over. Karen." Alex chuckled. "Dinner? With her?" but part of him was curious. Maybe she wanted to apologize. Maybe she was trying to lower her guard, or maybe she was planning another mind game. He looked at the paper again. The way she dotted the I in Karen with a little heart made him smirk. This wasn't just about peace. She was plotting something. He decided to go. Saturday evening. Karen's house glowed warm from the inside. Candles flickered through her windows. The smell of rosemary chicken and garlic butter drifted into the air. Alex knocked lightly on her door. It opened almost instantly. Karen stood there, not in her usual blazer and complaint folder, but in a deep red dress, her hair loose, makeup subtle, eyes shimmering with something that wasn't anger this time. "Well, I wasn't sure you'd come," she said, smiling. "Curiosity's a powerful thing," Alex replied. She laughed softly, leading him inside. Her dining table was set perfectly. 2 plates, wine glasses, candles. Every fork in place. Alex looked around. The house was immaculate, almost obsessively arranged, like her mind. "Impressive setup," he said. "I like things." "Neat," she said, her voice lingering on the word. "Unlike some of my neighbors." Alex smiled, sitting down. "Guess that's changing now." She tilted her head. "We'll see." Dinner started politely enough. Karen talked about her dedication to community standards, her dislike for chaos, and her need for order. Alex listened, hiding a grin. Every word told him exactly who she was, a woman desperate for control in a world that kept slipping from her hands. Then she shifted the topic. "You've been here a while," she said, pouring wine. "Yeah. Been quiet lately, haven't I?" "Yes," she said. "Almost too quiet. Makes me wonder what you're hiding." Alex met her eyes. "Everyone hides something, Karen." For a moment, her confident smile faltered. Then she laughed it off. "You're funny," she said. "I like that." She leaned forward. "You know, people here don't appreciate me. They think I'm controlling. But I just care about this neighborhood." Alex's lips curved into a small smile. "I'm sure you do." He let the sentence hang. Halfway through dinner, Karen excused herself to grab dessert. While she was in the kitchen, Alex's eyes wandered across her shelf, framed HOA certificates, neighborhood awards, even a Best Community Leader plaque, and right below them, a small locked drawer. Curiosity itched at him again. But before he could move, Karen's voice came from behind. "Looking for something?" He turned, smiling innocently. "Just admiring your trophies." "They remind me who I am," she said, setting down the dessert. "Who people need me to be." Her words were sharp but fragile, like she was convincing herself more than him. They ate in silence. The tension felt thick, sweet on the surface, bitter underneath. Then she said it. "You know, I was wrong about you, Alex. You're different from the others." He raised a brow. "Different how?" "More composed, more confident, almost like you know something I don't." Alex smirked. "Maybe I do." She stared at him, studying his face, trying to read something she couldn't yet see. Karen poured more wine. "To new beginnings," she said, raising her glass. Alex clinked it. "To truth." They drank. Minutes later, Karen's words started slurring slightly. Her smile grew softer, slower. Alex noticed. "Strong wine?" "Maybe," she giggled. "Or maybe it's just you." Alex leaned back, calm, watching her play with her hair. "You really think we could get along?" he asked. "If you stop breaking rules," she teased. He smiled faintly. "Rules have a funny way of changing depending on who's in charge." That line hit her harder than he expected. She blinked slowly, realizing she didn't fully understand him. Then, half drunk, she said, "Sometimes I wish I could just disappear. Start over somewhere else. People think I'm a monster." Alex's voice softened. Monsters are just people who lost control of their story. She looked at him strangely, as if the words cut deep. As dinner ended, Karen stood by the window, staring into the dark street. "You ever feel like you don't belong, Alex?" she asked. "All the time." "Then why stay here?" "Because some things are worth fixing from the inside." He walked closer. The air between them changed. Tense, emotional. "Maybe you're not what I thought," she whispered. "Neither are you," he replied. For a second, it almost felt human, like both were tired of pretending. Then she smiled, too wide. "You know, if you ever need help with your lease, I can make things easier for you. I have influence." Alex chuckled. "I'm sure you do." "I could even talk to the landlord personally," she added. "You could try," he said quietly, walking toward the door. "Leaving already?" "Yeah, I've seen what I needed to see." She frowned. "What's that supposed to mean?" He paused, hand on the doorknob. "You'll find out soon, Karen." Then he left. The next morning, Karen woke up groggy. Her head ached from wine and restless dreams, but something about Alex's words echoed in her mind. "You'll find out soon, Karen." She couldn't shake it off. She went to her office, opened her laptop, and searched the property records database. Typing in her address, the one she had ruled over for years, she scrolled down the ownership column and froze. Owner, Alexander Moore. Her breath caught. The room spun. The man she'd been tormenting for months, the tenant she insulted, fined, and humiliated, was the landlord. "No, that's not possible," she whispered, rereading the name, but it was right there, legally signed and recorded. She dropped her coffee. It shattered across the tile. Karen stared out her window, trembling. Alex was outside, watering his plants casually, earbuds in, a faint smirk on his face. He looked up, met her eyes, and for the first time, she looked away. That night, she barely slept. Every creak of the house felt like footsteps. Every shadow looked like him watching. The power she'd built, the rules, the control, was gone. And she knew. This was only the beginning. Power shift opening scene. The uneasy morning. Karen didn't sleep that night. Her mind kept replaying the name she saw on the property record. Alexander Moore. The same man she'd yelled at for overgrown grass. The same man she fined for a garden chair violating HOA standards. The same man who sat at her dinner table last night, smiling. Like he knew everything. The morning light crept through her blinds, harsh and unkind. Her coffee trembled in her hands as she sat by the window, staring at Alex's house. He was outside again, calm, composed, watering his plants. Every movement was deliberate, every pause calculated. He didn't even look her way this time, and that somehow felt worse. For years, Karen controlled this neighborhood, but now, for the first time, she felt small, like she was living inside someone else's plan. Monday evening. The HOA conference room was full, the usual faces, the usual chatter. Karen entered, holding her clipboard like a shield. But something was different today. The whispers. People were talking quietly, stealing glances at her. "Good evening, everyone," she began, trying to sound firm. "Let's start with the—" But then a voice interrupted. "Actually, before we start," said Mr. Benson, one of the senior board members, "we've been informed of a change in property ownership for several houses in this community." Karen's chest tightened. What kind of change?" He flipped through his notes. "Looks like a few rental properties were recently purchased by an investment firm owned by—" He stopped, adjusting his glasses. "Alexander Moore." Every head turned toward Karen. Her face froze. She tried to laugh awkwardly. "That can't be right. He's just a tenant." "Not anymore," Benson said. "He's now the legal owner of 5 homes here, including the one you rent." A murmur rippled through the room. Karen's hand gripped the table. Impossible. All legal, Benson said. He's technically your landlord now. The silence that followed was deafening. Karen forced a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Well, that doesn't change HOA authority. Ownership doesn't equal... Actually, Benson interrupted again, it does. Owners can nominate for board leadership next term. Karen's breath hitched. Alex, the man she'd mocked, fined and humiliated, could now challenge her power, and judging by the quiet smiles around the table, people were ready for change. Scene 3, the confrontation. Later that night, Karen stormed to Alex's door. She didn't knock, she pounded. The door opened slowly. Alex appeared casual as ever, a faint smile on his face. Karen, he said smoothly, you look tense. What game are you playing, Alex? She snapped. Game? He asked. I'm just managing my property. You bought the houses. She hissed. You think this is funny? You're trying to undermine me. He stepped closer, his calmness almost unnerving. No, Karen, I'm trying to make this neighborhood better, and remember? That's what you always say, she glared at him, breathing hard. You think you can take this from me? Alex tilted his head. You already gave it away. The moment you started treating people like pawns. For a second, Karen's anger faltered. She looked at him, the same man she thought was beneath her, now looking down at her without even raising his voice. This isn't over, she whispered. Oh, I know, he said softly. It's just beginning. She left, slamming the door. But the sound of his calm voice stayed echoing in her head. Scene 4, cracks in the Queen's crown. Over the next few weeks, Karen tried to fight back. She called emergency HOA meetings, sent out newsletters reminding residents of her authority. But something had shifted. People didn't listen like before. Neighbors who once nodded at her rules now smiled politely and walked away. Her control was slipping, not because of Alex's actions, but because of his silence. He didn't argue, didn't challenge her publicly, just kept improving his properties, talking kindly to residents, helping fix small issues she always ignored, and people noticed. Soon, whispers began. Alex is actually fixing things. He's reasonable, not like her. Maybe he should run the HOA. Each word felt like a dagger to Karen's pride. Scene 5, the visit from the lawyer. One morning, a black sedan pulled up to Karen's driveway. A man in a gray suit stepped out, holding an envelope. Mrs. Jenkins? Yes? I'm here on behalf of Mr. Alexander Moore. She froze. What is this? Notice of property adjustment, he said. He's restructuring his ownership. As of today, you're officially leasing under his private management company. You're saying I work for him now? The lawyer smiled politely. Technically, yes. Her world stopped. Her knees weakened, but she stood tall, refusing to show fear. Tell your boss I don't answer to anyone. You might want to read the contract before saying that, he replied. Handing her the papers, the car drove off, leaving Karen standing in the cold morning air, holding proof that everything she'd controlled now belonged to the man she once mocked. Scene 6, the breakdown. That night, Karen sat in her spotless living room, lights dim. The clock ticking loudly, every tick felt like a countdown. Her reflection in the glass looked older. The strong HOA leader was gone, replaced by a frightened woman realizing she'd built her throne on sand. She poured herself another glass of wine, hands trembling. He can't win, she whispered to herself. He can't. But her voice broke, because deep down she knew. She wasn't fighting him anymore. She was fighting herself, her obsession with control, her endless need to dominate. It had finally turned against her. Then came a soft knock on the door. Karen froze. When she opened it, there was no one there, just a small envelope on the mat. Inside, a handwritten note. The board votes next week. I'd like your support. AM, no threats. No insults, just quiet confidence, and that terrified her more than anything. Scene 7, the board vote. The day of the HOA election arrived. Residents filled the small hall, laughter, chatter, energy. For years, These meetings were silent and stiff under Karen's rule. But today, they were alive. Karen sat at the front, shoulders stiff, as Benson called the vote. For the position of HOA president, 2 candidates, Karen Jenkins and Alexander Moore. Her heart pounded. Ballots were passed around. People scribbled quietly. A few minutes later, Benson cleared his throat. The results are in. He looked at Karen, then at Alex. With a majority vote of 22-3, Alexander Moore is the new HOA president. The room erupted in applause. Karen sat frozen, eyes wide, lips trembling. For the first time, she had nothing to say. Alex stood up calmly, shook Benson's hand, and walked to the podium. He turned to the crowd, and then to her. "Thank you, everyone. We'll bring real change here, together." He didn't gloat, didn't smile arrogantly, just spoke with quiet authority. Karen felt something unfamiliar, respect mixed with fear. That night, the neighborhood was peaceful. No more complaints, no more warning letters. Alex stood on his porch, watching the streetlights flicker. Across the road, Karen's curtains were drawn. Through a thin gap, he could see her sitting by the window, still, defeated. Holding a cold cup of tea, he whispered to himself. Balance restored. For the first time, he felt no anger, just closure. Karen finally understood what it felt like to live under someone else's rules. And Alex finally understood what true power meant. Silence. The fall of the Queen. The day after the HOA vote, the neighborhood was unrecognizable. Kids played on lawns again. Neighbors who once whispered now laughed in the open. The air felt lighter. But in one house, the red brick one at the corner, silence ruled. Karen's blinds stayed closed. The mailbox overflowed. The woman who once ran the community with iron authority had vanished from sight. Inside, Karen sat in her robe, clutching a mug of cold coffee. Her eyes were red from sleepless nights. The crown she'd built for herself, control, image, authority, had crumbled. And all that was left was the echo of applause that wasn't for her. Her phone buzzed again. HOA chat group messages. Residents thanking Alex for restoring peace, fixing long-ignored issues, listening. Every message was a blade. She tossed the phone aside, whispering, "He thinks he's won." But even she could feel it. Something inside her breaking. Something she couldn't glue back together anymore. 3 days later, Alex knocked on her door. She didn't answer at first, hoping he'd go away. But the knock came again, calm and steady. Finally, she opened it. Alex stood there, neat, composed, not a trace of arrogance. He handed her an envelope. "Just wanted to give you this in person," he said. "Another notice?" she asked bitterly. "No," he said. "An invitation," she blinked. "To what?" "The first community dinner under the new board. Everyone's invited, including you." Karen laughed, hollow and sharp. "You expect me to smile and eat with people who stabbed me in the back?" "No one stabbed you," he said softly. "You built a wall so high no one could reach you. You just fell off it," she flinched. His tone wasn't cruel, it was true. "Why are you even here, Alex?" "Because I don't want enemies." "Not anymore." He turned to leave, then paused. "The invitation's real." "Think about it." She stood frozen as he walked away. For the first time, she didn't feel hatred toward him, only confusion. Was this pity or mercy, and which was worse? That night, Karen sat at her old desk, opening the dusty folder labeled HOA, Leadership Notes. Every page reminded her who she used to be, decisive, commanding, feared. But as she flipped through the papers, another feeling crept in, guilt. She remembered the faces of residents she'd humiliated, the families she'd fined for small mistakes, the old man she once yelled at for parking an inch over the line. She told herself it was about order, but deep down, it was about fear. Fear of losing relevance, fear of fading away, and now, that fear had become reality. Scene 4. The call she shouldn't have made. By midnight, after 2 glasses of wine, she picked up her phone and dialed a number she'd sworn she'd deleted. Richard, her ex-husband. The line rang twice. Karen? His voice was groggy, confused. It's late. I know, she said quietly. I just needed to talk. A pause. What happened? She hesitated. Everything. I lost it all, Richard. The board. The house. My respect. Karen, I told you years ago how you care too much about power, about being right. That's easy for you to say, she snapped. You walked away. Because you stopped listening. Silence. You can't control everything, Karen, he said softly. You never could, her voice broke. Then what's left of me if I'm not in control? He sighed. Maybe it's time to find out. She hung up before he could say more, tears sliding down her face. For the first time in years, she felt small, human. Scene 5, the night at the lake. 2 nights later, Karen drove out to the small lake at the edge of town, the same lake where community picnics once took place. She sat on the hood of her car, staring at her reflection in the still water. The stars shimmered faintly above, and the soft hum of crickets filled the silence. She whispered, "Who am I without them?" No answer came. Just ripples from a stray leaf drifting across the water. Then headlights approached. A car pulled up beside hers. Alex. He stepped out, hands in pockets. Didn't expect to see anyone here, he said gently. I could say the same, she replied. He looked at her for a long moment. You know, this lake's quiet, peaceful. Reminds me that power doesn't mean noise. She laughed bitterly. You sound like a philosopher. No, he said, sitting beside her. Just someone who's been angry too long. For a moment, they both stared at the water in silence. Why didn't you humiliate me? She asked suddenly. You had every chance to. You could have ruined me. Because that's not power, Karen. That's just cruelty. And I've seen enough of that. Her throat tightened. So what now? You won. You got your revenge. No, he said softly. Revenge ends when you feel empty. I just wanted peace. The wind shifted. The reflection of the moon trembled on the lake. For the first time, she saw him not as her enemy, but as a mirror. Both of them had built walls of pride. Only he had learned to step outside of his, scene 6, the collapse. Days passed. Karen tried to attend the community dinner Alex had invited her to. She even dressed up, put on her pearls, rehearsed her smile. But the moment she reached the door, laughter from inside froze her. People were happy, free. They didn't need her anymore. She turned back before anyone saw her. That night, her house felt colder than ever. Walls that once echoed with her voice now only held silence. She poured another glass of wine, then another. Pictures of the HOA meetings, certificates, and trophies stared back at her, mocking. Her mind started to blur. Her breathing quickened, and then she heard it. A soft knock at the door. Alex again. Karen? Go away, she said. I just wanted to check if you're okay. You took everything, and now you want to check on me? He sighed. I didn't take it, Karen. You let it slip. She opened the door suddenly, eyes red, voice trembling. You don't get to lecture me. You don't know what it's like to be forgotten. Then stop hiding, he said quietly. Why do you care? She shouted. Why didn't you just destroy me and move on? Alex looked at her, eyes soft. Because I've seen what hate does to people. I don't want it to own me anymore. Her voice cracked. Then what am I supposed to do now? Start over, he said. Maybe not as the HOA queen. Maybe just as Karen. He turned and walked away, leaving her in the doorway, trembling, broken, but thinking. Scene 7, the letter. The next morning, Alex found an envelope taped to his door. Inside was a handwritten note. For years, I believed control was strength. I thought power meant being feared. But now I see real power is the ability to let go. You were right, Alex. Thank you for showing me that before it was too late. Karen. Below the note was a small silver HOA badge, the one she used to wear at every meeting. He looked across the street. Her house was empty, curtains open. A moving van outside. She was gone. Closing scene, the reflection. That evening, Alex walked past her old house. He stood by the mailbox, the same one she once inspected daily, and smiled. The neighborhood was peaceful again. Kids laughed, dogs barked. The air felt alive. He thought about how revenge had once consumed him, how power had once blinded her, and in the end, both of them had learned the same truth. Control is an illusion. Respect can't be demanded. It has to be earned. As he turned to leave, he whispered to himself, "Goodbye, Karen." A cool breeze swept down the street, carrying away the last trace of her rule, and for the first time, Alex truly felt free. The night was quiet, too quiet for that building. Even Karen hadn't made a sound all evening. No yelling, no stomping heels, no barking orders through the hallway, just silence. I stood on the rooftop, staring at the city lights. It was strange. The same view that once made me feel small now made me feel powerful. Every light below reminded me of how far I had come, from sleeping in my car 5 years ago to owning a 6-unit apartment building that people like Karen lived in. And tonight was the night I'd take back my peace. The letter that changed everything. Earlier that morning, I'd slipped a white envelope under Karen's door. It was short, simple, cold. Dear Tenant 2B, your lease has been terminated due to multiple violations of tenant code, harassment, noise complaints, and property damage. You have 7 days to vacate the premises. Management. She didn't know that management was me. By noon, the entire building heard her voice shaking the walls. She banged on every door, shouting, "Who the hell is the landlord?" But no one answered. Everyone had already learned to stay quiet when Karen screamed, "Knock, knock." That evening, I went down to check the mailbox, calm, collected, pretending as if I had nothing to do with the chaos. And there she was, standing at my door. Her hair was messy, eyes wild, face red with anger. She pointed at me like a detective in a courtroom. You know something, don't you? You're always here, always watching. I've seen you sneaking around with that maintenance guy." I took a slow breath, then smiled. "Karen," I said softly, "you should come in. We need to talk." She hesitated. For a moment, I think she felt something shift. The tone in my voice wasn't the same quiet, patient one she'd mocked for months. She walked in anyway. The room fell silent. I led her into the living room. On the coffee table sat a stack of papers, contracts, bank records, title deeds, and lease agreements. "Sit," I said. She crossed her arms. "What is this, some kind of joke?" I leaned back, keeping my voice steady. "Do you remember last month when you told me this building should have better management?" She scoffed. "Yeah, because it's true. Whoever owns this dump doesn't deserve it." I nodded slowly, then turned the paper around, sliding it across the table toward her. It was the deed to the building. And on it, my name, the moment of truth. For the first time, Karen didn't say a word. Her face froze. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. Her eyes moved across the page, reading my name over and over, as if her brain couldn't accept it. Finally, she whispered, You're the landlord?" I leaned forward. "No, Karen, I'm the owner." The color drained from her face. She looked around the apartment like she was seeing it for the first time. The walls, the floor, the furniture, everything she had mocked suddenly belonged to the man she had insulted. I didn't know," she stammered. "You should have told me," I interrupted gently. "I did tell you, just not with words. Every time you called me names, I stayed silent. Every time you told me to go back where I came from, I chose peace. But tonight I choose truth." The fall of Karen, she tried to smile, tried to recover her pride. "Look, maybe we got off on the wrong foot. We can fix this." I shook my head. "Karen, this isn't about fixing things anymore. It's about consequences." I slid another envelope toward her, this one official. "An eviction notice. You have 7 days," I said quietly. "No more yelling. No more warnings. No more second chances." She stared at the letter like it was a death sentence. Her hands trembled. "This isn't fair," she muttered. I stood up, walked toward the door, and opened it for her. "Neither was the way you treated everyone here." She didn't move. For a few seconds, she just stood there, breathing heavily, eyes darting between the eviction notice and my face. Then, without another word, she walked out. 1 week later, the hallway was peaceful again. Neighbors greeted each other with smiles. For the first time in months, laughter echoed through the walls. Karen was gone. Her apartment stood empty, a hollow reminder of how power without empathy always collapses. I donated her old furniture to charity. And on the wall outside her door, I placed a small brass plate that read, "Respect is the rent everyone must pay." Epilogue. A month later, I got a letter. No return address, just my name. Inside was a small note written in Karen's handwriting. "I didn't deserve kindness, but you showed me what accountability looks like. Thank you for not yelling back." I folded the letter and smiled. Sometimes revenge isn't loud. Sometimes it's quiet, peaceful, and poetic. As I locked the building gate that night, I whispered to myself, "She didn't know I was her landlord. But she'll never forget it."